Welcome back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
See, I feel like that's deceptive because they might not be back.
Oh, this might be their first time.
We could have a first-time visitor.
I did not
First
even
time
think
visitor.
of that. Yes, please,
First-time guest.
Please fill out the connection card and leave it at the Connect booth. And
This is Obscurigami, whether you're listening for the
Obscurigami,
first time.
a podcast about the decline of the American church.
Is that what this podcast is about?
No, it's not about that. It's actually about, it's a pointlessly educational podcast, a journal of obscure things.
In audio.
In audio form, yeah.
It's not a written journal. That would be weird if somebody transcribed our show.
That would be weird. It probably wouldn't read very well.
It wouldn't be enjoyable for anyone.
All right. Well, we should probably get into what this show is all about, which is talking about an obscure topic. I have one that I'm kind of excited to talk about. We'll see how interesting I can make it. But we're gonna talk a little bit about hotel amenities, and
That's the thing that excites me very much.
more specifically, the 2, maybe 3. The data is vague, but we're basing this most off of oral histories and a few written accounts of the Hotel Amenities Wars.
Yes.
Yeah, we all know about the Hotel Amenities Wars, so we'll be diving into that a little bit as a
Yes,
topic.
a well-known,
Exploring.
obscure topic.
Yeah. When you when you think of a hotel amenity, what's the first thing that pops into your mind?
Well, the first thing that pops into my mind is mouthwash, because I went to a hotel that provided me with mouthwash.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very unusual.
That
I've
is
never been
unusual.
provided with mouthwash before. And so I was very touched by this gift that
Right.
the hotel had given me.
That's
But generally, I think of other things.
right. That's
Toilet paper. being
tangent.
one.
That is true. That is somewhat of an amenity. It's in thinking about this, it was interesting to think about a lot of the things that are actually amenities that we no longer consider amenities just because
Right.
they've been around for so long as amenities, such as TV,
Right. Toilet paper being
toilet
another.
paper. Yeah. But interestingly related to the mouthwash thing, the whole thing that led me down this path to begin with was an article about why there isn't toothpaste as an amenity. Because that just seems like something that would probably be more useful than a lot of the amenities that we do have. But for whatever reason, the hotel amenities gods have deemed that toothpaste is not one of them. But we might get into why that is, such as we know.
Let's dive in.
Let's dive in. So hotel amenities are a big budget, big deal. In 1987, Hilton Head was spending like $250,000 a night
A night?
on shower caps.
A night.
Yeah, across their,
Across
not
their-
at a
across
single
their
hotel,
network.
obviously. Yeah, but across their network.
That's insane.
Yeah. So there's an incredible amount of money. So the most recent hotel amenities war was one that kind of started in 1999 roughly and maybe continued around 2005. Although based on my reading, it seems like the hotel amenities wars are more like the Iraq war than they are like the world wars, and that there are more of these ongoing drawn out conflicts, and less
With lots of insurgency.
right, and less of these fiercely fought
Yeah, tell me more of what you mean when you say...
Okay, so in 1999, Starwood's Westin chain of hotels kind of kicked things up a notch. So there's these times where hotel amenities kind of plateau and there's not much innovation or change. It's just kind of an accepted norm. And then all of a sudden somebody will try to bust through the norms and stand out
By providing something extra.
So in 1999, it was the Heavenly Bed, which was a white-on-white bedding package by Simmons with a pillow top mattress that had 900 coils, 3 sheets ranging in thread count from 180 to 250, and a down blanket in 3 thicknesses depending on the climate. And so this was a clear step forward from the sort of floral polyester bedspreads that had been common in a lot of these places. And just making that one change, their cleanliness score went up going to white bedspreads, even though they didn't have any policy changes or cleaning changes, just changing the visuals.
Right. Well, white, it's easier to see dirt.
Right. They've since expanded their heavenly bed linens to include shower heads, bathrobes, and pet bedding. And all of these things the customer can buy and take home with them, which generated them $4.3 million in 2003.
Wow.
So that's a big industry in and of itself, just people buying amenities, which I didn't really realize was a thing.
Wow.
So that kind of started things off. Hyatt fired back with a Posturepedic grand bed with some down blankets and 250 triple thread count sheeting. Marriott spent $190 million to upgrade their beds, and they had king size beds with 300 thread count sheets. So, you know, you got to get in there. They got the highest thread count. Radisson had the Sleep Number. Hilton had a suite, rolled out its Sweet Dreams. I love how they all have these very like
catchy names
for, you know, just like a bedding upgrade. But they had executive linen sheets with down comforters. So you get the idea. Plush top mattresses.
So these hotel chains
all
are
these
competing.
It just starts this ripple effect, and suddenly across the board, all these hotel chains, they're competing. Really, you know, it kind of sets a new standard in a lot of ways. And then it sort of seems to, usually in these wars, kind of climax with some sort of just outrageous, you know, somebody just like tops everyone. In the bed situation, it was kind of the Pan Pacific Vancouver is installing $10,000 British-made Hypnos Duchess beds. I'm assuming, you know, it's a fairly high-end hotel, but people get pushed to the limits. And
so basically, it just keeps getting more and more expensive until it reaches the point that it's no longer really sustainable for a large company to do.
Right. Yeah. And there's a certain point where certain amenities will go out of vogue. So the first sort of documented hotel amenities war that I came across was, it seemed like there was one in 67 that's mentioned. There was also one around 1987. So maybe like every 20 years, it seemed like there's roughly been a hotel's amenity war. We're coming up on one. There may be signs that we're already getting into the next.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's.
Have you done any prepping yet? For the
well,
hotel amenities war?
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that.
There's a lot here.
So the initial original hotel amenities wars in the 60s and 80s were centered around things that some have gone away, like shower caps, you know, TVs, and bathrobes were a big one. Shoe horns, coffee makers were kind of in that original skirmishing. But some of those things have already fallen out of vogue. Like a shower cap isn't really a shower cap and a shoe horn.
I've seen that maybe once.
Aren't super common.
Never seen a shoe horn
anymore. And so there are things that kind of they come into vogue in some of these competitions, and then they fall out.
I was gonna say, does the bubble burst?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's kind of new standards that are set. But
how does it reset? You know what I mean? Like, how does it go from, well, they're competing to top each other,
right,
to we no longer have, like, if they were competing for, you know, who's going to have the best bathrobes. Well, now it's pretty rare to see a bathrobe in a hotel room.
Yeah. The owners of hotels, some of them are critical of amenities. They're not like, you know, they understand the costs, obviously.
Right.
Which can get up to $20 a room
Right.
This
Yeah.
was in, I think, the 80s Hotel Wars. I saw somebody was saying it was like $20 a room for just the amenities per night.
Right. That
and-
can really stack up.
And that's a significant cost of, what might be $100 room.
And who would eat that eat that cost in the case of a big chain?
Right.
Would that be corporate or would that be on the managerial level?
Well, I mean, it goes back to the customers paying for it ultimately. A lot of times they're finding whatever way they can to like slip this cost back to the customer.
Right.
In some cases, I was seeing people talking about the fact that inflated parking costs is being used
to cover amenities.
So, when you're paying $30 a night for parking, that's covering your bamboo, floral scented, 3 kinds of conditioners.
Right.
And so I think the owners of hotels are very conscious of how expectations kind of shift over time. Some of them have talked about how like, soap used to be an amenity. Now it's just expected. And there are some movements occasionally to kind of move away from that. There's places more recently that have tried installing like soap dispensers in showers and stuff like that instead of providing individual soaps. And so every now and then, a hotel chain will decide, well, we can save costs here and move towards. Another one that's kind of come and gone is the mini bar. The mini bar had a huge insurgence, and then, I guess people just kind of, the novelty wore off, and it actually ended up being impractical because it's just
to keep it
people have
stocked
to
in every
restock
room.
it, and then people would cheat the system and drink the vodka and refill it with water and put it back
Right.
in the mini bar and things like that. But in general, it seems like the hotel amenities wars, they cause excess, but they also cause improvements for the hotel guests just overall in terms of raising the standards. So the net effect is hotel standards go up over time. One example of this is that the polyester floral bedspreads that used to be incredibly common were not washed every time. They would only be washed periodically throughout the year.
Right.
Switching to white duvet covers forced people to wash their spreads a lot more. And so little things like that can add quality. Let's talk about some just weird amenities that hotels have come up with over the years, because there's some oddball ones. I found quite a few lists, and there's a lot of good ones. A Hilton in Albuquerque provided at one point a cowboy hat and a bandana for guests
To every room? Wow.
One in San Francisco provided dictionaries. I guess
Like
maybe
pocket dictionaries?
I guess
like a
maybe
full-
right in there beside the Gideon Bible, just have a little dictionary.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Exercise bikes are one that I've heard
In rooms?
several times. Yeah, in rooms. The Ritz-Carlton in Atlanta at one point had disposable swimsuits. That's one that I think actually makes some sense if you're at a place by a beach or where people might be stopping over, not have a swimsuit packed. But a Hilton in Abu Dhabi provided a free briefcase, kimono, and travel bag to guests at one point.
Abu Dhabi.
A Hyatt in Washington, this is obviously in the 87 bout of combat, provided videotape recorders.
When you say videotape recorders, you mean a VCR that could record videotape?
No, like a camcorder.
Oh.
People could use to borrow from the room to record their own home movies.
What's to prevent people from stealing the camcorder?
That's a good question. It's a good question.
I guess they just have your information on file.
That might be why it didn't last. Another hotel in San Francisco had wax in the room that you could use to seal letters with the hotel seal.
That's kind of nice, actually.
The Anderson House in Wabasha, Minnesota, had 8 cats available in the hotel that you could choose from and have visit your room and stay with you. So hopefully...
What if they were all booked?
Well, I guess you're
what if you're a
cat
regular
for you.
visitor and you have a regular cat and your cat is booked?
Yeah.
That could lead to a lot of potential
I
unhappy.
could see there being some conflict there.
Or what if you were allergic?
Yeah.
I guess that you would have to designate rooms.
You probably have designated cat rooms, yeah. I would imagine. The kicker of all these, and my favorite one, is the Stanhope in New York that had over 4,200 classic 18th and 19th century rare books, many of them first edition or other, rare, expensive books, and that people could have in their room. They had they had a few sprinkled throughout the rooms and sort of an on-site library, but they encouraged people to take the books with them if they didn't finish them during their stay. And they actually gained books over the course of this program. People would take them and read them and bring them back, and some people even left books, rare classics that they just added to the collection.
So number one, clearly not your average hotel.
Right. Yes.
Obviously appealing to a different clientele. And number two, if it was successful in gaining books for the system, why was it discontinued, or is it discontinued?
I think that may have been in the one of the articles I read from the 90s.
Gotcha.
So I didn't look up if they continue that.
Yeah, it's definitely a fascinating system. I've often wondered why you wouldn't put more literature in a hotel.
You could easily do that not with rare...
Yeah, books are pretty
18th,
easy
19th
and inexpensive to come
books.
by.
And you could just have a, rotating hotel library. And
I'm sure there's even authors that would pay for the exposure.
Right.
To have
it really,
their book.
I think a lot of it comes down to what hotels we're talking about. Because there's a big range here. There's your roadside inn to your, $100-$200 a night place somewhere that's decent to all the way up to, somewhere like the Stanhope in New York, which is probably, 4 or 5 star hotel and,
exclusive, ritzy.
Right, yeah. And I feel like the kind of thing you can pull off in a hotel like that is definitely much different from what you can pull off in lower end hotels.
But if I'm staying at the Courtyard Inn,
right,
there's no reason why I can't have a James Patterson novel.
Right.
James Patterson's latest novel.
That's true.
In my drawer,
right
next to the Gideon's Bible.
But but it would be much more prone to just people taking them and not.
Right.
A lot of why certain amenities have diminished on the lower end of hotels is for that reason.
People always take them.
Like shoehorns would just get stolen.
Right.
And so eventually they just go, okay, we're not going to have shoehorns anymore.
Because it doesn't make sense to prosecute someone for stealing a shoehorn.
Right.
Versus
stealing
a video camera.
But that cost adds up over time.
Right. When you have a lot of rooms with a lot of shoehorns.
Interestingly, because I wondered about this while I was reading, hotel owners very much encourage and want you to take the little soaps and things with you.
Why is that?
Because they don't really have any use for them otherwise.
So if I leave my soap behind, it just gets thrown away, or do they reuse it? I mean, presumably a bar soap, you would have no choice but to throw away.
Right.
But an unopened container of conditioner.
I don't know if they reuse the unopened containers of conditioners, but I do know that it is a bit of an environmental issue that some places have tried to address. There is a hotel, or there's an organization in New Zealand that collects unused soaps and amenities from hotels and recycles them and gives the soap to charities. But that's not happening in most places.
Right.
And apparently 73% of guests leave with their their bathroom amenities. Travelers combined throw out 5 million bars of used soap a day. So
that's a lot of soap.
Yeah, that is quite a bit of soap.
One thing we haven't talked about yet is towels.
Yeah, towels. I didn't run across towels too much, besides just the general trend of them starting out as not an amenity. You know, if you go far back enough, they weren't there. They were introduced, you know, started out with maybe having 2 towels or something. The amount of towels builds up, and now it's gone back down. But towels have stuck because it's one of those things that most people just expect at this point.
And I feel like towels, though, are one of the most commonly stolen items from a hotel.
Right, yeah.
Like, that's something that you're not supposed to take with you.
Yes.
But a large number of people take them.
It is funny that there's kind of this...
either by accident or on purpose. Because if you're at the beach, you need a towel to take with you down to the beach if you didn't pack any towels.
Yeah.
And you can accidentally put it in a suitcase, or on purpose put it in a suitcase, and it's very easy to walk away with.
It is funny that there's this kind of unspoken division between like all these other amenities which you're not supposed to steal or take with you, and just like, oh, soap, take that with you, that's fine. But like nobody's laying out those rules anywhere. It's just assumed that stealing a towel, shame on you. Right. Please take the soap.
Right. But if you took a light bulb.
Right.
Like a light bulb is something disposable.
Right.
But if you took it.
Yeah. People would understand. I mean, you shouldn't take a towel, but most people would understand it as an accident if you did. Right. But yeah, a light bulb, that would be a little.
Well, some people do think of it as an amenity that they can just take, though.
Right. Right.
Because they're paying for the room.
I don't understand those people. One of these hotel owners said that he thinks in fact any amenity. A lot of amenities are like insulting. Wall-mounted hair dryers. He thinks they're just a disaster. And he said any amenity that has to be mounted or attached to something is a failed amenity. So I guess in his mind, the idea of theft prevention means you just should just not have that thing, or deal with the
theft
as a just a built-in cost.
Interesting.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the recent patterns in amenity reduction just have to do with trying to be more environmentally responsible.
Yeah.
Like a reduction in the amount of turn down service. A lot of hotels are moving to not making up your room while you're staying there unless you ask for it. Not replacing your towels unless you ask for that sort of thing.
Right. Which makes a lot of sense to me.
The toothpaste thing, there is kind of a funny inquiry that was made to the AAA hotel rating agency, and they were kind of trying to find out why toothpaste is not an amenity, because it seems like one of the most intuitive of all these ridiculous amenities that have been used over the years. Why not toothpaste?
Right.
And a lot of the hotels just kind of deflect and are like, well, it's not something guests expect. We're not rated poorly because we don't have toothpaste. And so someone inquired to the AAA rating agency and asked them why toothpaste isn't an expected amenity. And they said that it's because, well, it's not something that hotels usually put out. so apparently there's a little bit of circular reasoning where there's just these standards and norms that evolve because that's what hotels do, and then that becomes the standard by which hotels are measured, and then hotels do things based on the standard, and there's this evolution over time and a natural selection of hotel amenities between what lasts and what doesn't.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's similar, I guess, to a lot of other businesses where, I don't know, you're just expected to tip your waiter or waitress.
Right.
Or you expect them to grate the cheese for you.
Yeah.
Even though they may not do any other task related to your meal for you.
Right. Yeah.
They don't salt or pepper it usually for you. But
there's this unspoken...
There's this unspoken code of how we do things that's really interesting.
Well, Hotel Amenities Wars seem to coordinate with hotel prices, and they're at a record high right now. So be on the lookout for the next Hotel Amenities War.
Standing by.
I read what I think may be signs of it breaking out, and this is probably the most ridiculous hotel amenity I encountered in all this research, and so I'll end on this. But there was reports of a few hotels in certain locales providing locals as an amenity. So what they were doing is they were paying for local people to hang around the hotel and I guess fraternize with guests and just like be there and maybe like, you know, the guests have people to bump into who are like, oh yeah, I know where, you know, Tony's ice cream is. It's just down the road. That's a good place.
Are these designated locals? Do they wear some sort of costume or badges, or how would you know that someone's a local and not a guest?
It seems like they just basically pay them or provide free services, so like you can eat for free at the hotel restaurant or use the gym or whatever.
Because you're a designated local.
Because you're a designated local.
But how do the patrons know who's a local?
They don't. It's just trying to build an ambiance and
right.
You know.
Because I would love to have a local at my hotel that
I
could ask where the greatest, you know.
Well, I think generally that's the role of the concierge. But yeah, no, it's totally like it's not like I'm a local name tag, you know, walking around ready to serve the guests.
Right.
It's totally an informal, like the hotels are just trying to
they just want to create a local
an atmosphere by having certain people there, and so they're incentivizing or paying locals.
It's very interesting
to be at the hotel or hang around.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
At that point, you're talking about like commodifying a culture.
Yeah.
Which is something that the Irish have done exceptionally well.
Yeah.
With their culture.
We'll see what hotel amenities break out in the next hotel.
That's very exciting. War. I hope I'll be traveling a lot in the near future so that I can keep tabs on all that.
I have a prediction. I don't think it'll become widespread, nor will it catch on. But it's a prediction. I think there will be at least one or two hotels that have virtual reality experiences as amenities.
Interesting.
Before virtual reality is a thing. I'm sure in 50 years, when virtual reality is everywhere, it'll be as normal as a TV to have virtual reality in your hotel room. But at some point in the next few years, I imagine somebody, if it hasn't already been thought up, if you're a hotel owner, send me my check if you're using this as an idea. But that just seems like one of those kooky ideas, like cats or a cowboy hat and a bandana that somebody's gonna go, oh yeah, that'll.
Somebody would think it's a good idea,
right? Yeah. Hotel amenities fall into this spectrum, which is there's two goals with them. You're either just trying to fulfill the minimum expectation, or you're trying to impress your guests. So you're trying to make your guest feel like they're at home because they have something they just would have at home, or you're trying to make them feel special because they have something that's luxurious that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Right.
So there's this kind of
things like
coin.
Combs,
right,
and toothpaste are kind of in that netherworld,
right,
where it's neither your guest might not feel at home with a comb or toothpaste that is not his own.
Right. Most people aren't going to go, oh, what a luxury, this place has toothpaste.
Right. It's it's in neither world.
Yeah. But the toothpaste one does confound me because it does seem like of all these things you can forget, toothpaste is pretty disastrous.
I think toothpaste is probably one of the most forgotten items. But as I was just saying, I wouldn't like to switch brands of toothpaste as easily as I would switch brands of soap.
Yeah. That's true. Maybe it's a more personal thing.
Yeah, because taste comes into play.
Yeah.
So it's more personalized.
Well, should we move on and hit up the random Wikipedia?
This is the portion of the program where we click the random button on Wikipedia and see what happens. Usually, it's great.
That's a little...
That was a bit optimistic.
Yeah. Oh, hey, we got a theme here between the last episode and this episode.
No, really? Oh my goodness.
But wasn't the last one the African Baptist Church?
It was in West Virginia.
Now we have Johann Baptist. Perhaps that's just his name. He's not actually a Baptist. Doesn't matter.
Or maybe both.
Still a theme. Johann Baptist George Neruda.
It's possibly not pronounced that way. But
yeah, I'm probably butchering the name. But, well, look at how it's spelled in Czech.
Johann Baptist George Neruda.
Circa 1708 to 1780 was a classical Czech composer. And that would be a music composer from the country of Czechoslovakia, not someone who simply wrote
composed
checks. Yes.
Yeah.
For cashing. Relative to other composers to the classical music era, Neruda is little known. His dates of birth and death are only approximations.
Oh, man.
He was born in Bohemia to a well-respected musical family. After spending earlier years gaining a good reputation as a violinist and conductor in Prague and Germany.
Dude, he wrote 18 symphonies.
Wow. 14 instrumental concertos. I wonder if we can hear any.
Yeah, let's listen to some samples.
Let's see.
Apparently his trumpet concerto in E flat. Fascinating.
Well, there we go.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. Well, Ben, what else should we tell these people? Tell your friends about this podcast if you have any friends you think might enjoy this. I'm assuming it's 0, but on the off
Or
chance.
if you have friends.
Yeah, or if you, well, that's what I was saying. I'm assuming
Yeah.
They don't
if you're
have
listening to this podcast, it's possible that we're your only friends, and we're okay with that. Just as long as you don't know where we live.
Yeah.
You can become our friend by sending us an email.
Yeah, at what's the email?
It's
Obscurigami@gmail.com.
Right.
Go to the website, obscurigami.com. Subscribe.
It's a good one.
Listen to other episodes. Read the show notes.
I like our website.
That Ben so graciously writes for us creatively each time.
I don't really want to take credit for them.
How does he do it? Oh, you don't want that to be known?
No, I think that should be a mystery.
Well, it isn't anymore. This is how the work breaks down. Ben writes the show notes. Matthew Flight does the artwork. We both record, and I edit.
Yeah, we
the
haven't
podcast.
talked about Matthew Flight much.
Not on the
show.
On the program.
He's always mentioned in the show notes.
Well, to all our listeners out there on this snowy Christmas evening, thank you for joining us for our another Christmas special here at Obscurigami. Go spend some time with your family by the
honor of this holiday,
by the fireplace, and
sip a cup of hot cocoa. Play an episode or two of Obscurigami for them.
Snuggle up under the blanket, play some checkers, and enjoy the holiday cheer.
You don't play checkers under a blanket?
That's a good point.